Great. Ladies and gentlemen, my guest, Franck. I'm sorry, I'm rolling my R's. Franck, there you go. French. Franck Amsallem. I can't hear you anymore. I don't hear you.
I haven't touched anything.
I hear you now.
Okay.
That's funny because you were touching something while the music was playing and you could hear it. You know, it's like, it's kind of a weird sound. So I'm not sure what happened.
I don't know. The computer started being hot a little bit, so I was trying to find a solution for the laptop not to overheat.
Yeah, now right there, your mic sounds good.
Okay, that's
Yeah,
really good. Yeah.
that's good. So, ladies and gentlemen, Franck. My French is really bad lately.
People call me Frank. Just
Oh, really, Frank?
Frank. Yeah.
I'd at the least call you Franck.
Okay.
Okay. So, yeah, this is our first meeting, but we've already been talking for about a half hour. But he's living in Paris, and he has an American wife, and Paris is in lockdown right now. So we've been talking about a lot of different things, and we both went to Berkeley. Although he's about 10 years younger than I am, right?
8. Yeah.
Yeah. So, but basically you followed me not too far behind.
Mm-hmm.
And so there were a lot of similar things going on at Berkeley between my time and his time.
Mm-hmm.
And also he was, well, you probably got into it more of the arranging. I wish I had gotten into it a little more. In later years, I actually thought I should go back to arranging. I should just go into that because I used to love it so much.
Mm-hmm.
And but I just never got there. Do you spend a lot of time in your career arranging?
Well, at some point I did, and then the piano playing took over. So I still arrange and compose whenever people pay me for it.
Okay.
So I don't really feel like entertaining the thought of having a big band or a smaller band, a large band or whatever, and
Yeah.
writing the parts and doing all the things and that big band do. But from time to time there are some commissions.
Did I see in your bio that you did do an arrangement for the WDR band?
I did a whole program, yeah.
Oh, a whole program.
Yeah. And I
What?
also
I'm sorry. What does a program entail?
an hour of music.
Okay.
And then I also did write some arrangements for various projects for them.
Okay. Yeah. And I'm guessing that was probably during the time Michael Abene was there too. Sorry, I think we crossed.
That was at the very end. That was at the very end.
The very end. What was at the very end?
Of his tenure.
Oh, okay. Okay. Yeah.
So as a matter of fact, he couldn't do like 3 or 4 arrangements because there was just too many, and they just called me up, or I was right there at the rehearsal, and they just looked at me and said, "Frank, could you arrange those 3 pieces for 2 weeks from now?" And I went, "Sure, I'll do it." And because I had done it before for them,
Yeah.
and then I was due to return to conduct the band for a program.
Okay. I'm sorry, I just have to get this technical question handled. Are you touching stuff and moving stuff?
The computer. Okay, I could rest the computer. It was starting to overheat a little bit, so I could rest and do this.
That's good, and the sound is good. As you were moving, the sound cut down. So okay. I think probably just if your computer's.
I have no idea where the microphone is on the Mac, so that's probably why.
I'm not sure either. Actually, want to. I don't know. I'm not sure whether it's near the speakers or on the lid.
I don't know. But
Anyway,
yeah.
so okay, so yeah, the arranging. That was a beautiful song, by the way. That was your composition, right?
Yes, I
Yeah.
wrote that. I wrote that when I learned that I that I would have to sell my apartment in New York and to buy a place in Paris. And I was like, okay, I've had that apartment for 22 years.
Wow.
Now it's going to be the end of it. So I was in a bit. It was a bit of a commotion in my head. So I went to the piano and I wrote that tune, and I called it Gotham Goodbye.
Were you? Was it on Gotham?
It was in I lived in Brooklyn.
Okay. What? I'm sorry. What? So what was Gotham? What did Gotham come? You know.
Gotham is the nickname of New York in through Batman.
Oh, okay.
In,
I
in
I thought maybe Gotham was something else too.
no in Batman and it's called Gotham City.
Right. Yes, I do know that. I just don't. I'm not that. I haven't spent that much time in New York really over the years. I mean, I've spent time, but not like I don't really know the city that well and know all the ins and outs. So I thought maybe Gotham was actually like a real street or a city or something.
No, but it's a nickname that's very much used in New York.
Oh, really? Oh, cool. See, something I didn't know. Well, so Franck, you went to you said you went to Berkeley early, but what happened before? Like, did you grow up in a musical family? Did you love piano right from the beginning? Tell us just about how the whole thing hit you over the head.
Well, there was a piano at my place. My father had bought a piano, and I was we are six kids, and
Hmm.
the last three had to go through piano lessons, and I did, and I didn't like it. But my sister, who's even younger, uh, liked it, so she kept playing. So, and I admitted it was not so bad. So when I was around 13 or 14, I started playing again, and gee, that felt pretty good. So I went to the conservatory in France, and they told me, "No, kid, you're just too old to play the piano."
Oh,
You know, that's the system in France.
right, right,
The
right.
the conservatory is it's free of charge basically,
Yes.
but it's really sort of uh, elitist.
Yes.
So said, well, what could I play? And I played the saxophone. I went to school playing saxophone, but then I still played the piano, and I started playing gigs and more gigs. And so when I was about 18, I started playing out of high school. I started playing jazz and lounge music and more jazz. And I met a lot of people in Nice because that's where I grew up, Nice,
Uh huh.
France. That's because it was a jazz festival. George Wein had the Grande Parade du Jazz, and so I met tons of people who encouraged me to get the hell out because it seemed like I was really passionate about playing jazz. And so when I turned 19, I went to Berkeley.
Huh.
They wrote me a little recommendation, and I auditioned, and I in France, and I got a scholarship, and so I went to Berkeley, and that was in '81, and it was great. But I quit playing saxophone then, and I played only piano.
Cool. So it's so you weren't apparently you weren't too old for the sax, but you were too old for the piano.
Yeah, because everybody wants to play the piano, and the sax, it's an instrument that you often pick up a little later, at least when you're 10, 12, 13, 14, something like this. That's in the French way of doing things 40 years ago.
Yeah.
Now it's even more selective and more elitist.
Oh, really?
Well, because it's not very expensive, and they can't provide music lessons for everyone.
Yeah.
And you can't have a conservatory with 500 pianists and no saxophone player or no trombone player. So you mix it up, which overall is not that bad.
Yeah. I've heard some funny stories about how people, chose the instruments, or the instruments were chosen for them. I think Ed New. Do you know Ed Newmeister, the
Very
trombone
well.
player?
Very well.
Yeah. So why he started playing trombone. I forget what instrument he wanted to play, but the professor said that his mouth and his teeth were good for trombone, but he actually really thinks they just needed a trombone player.
Yeah, often. For me, it was sax or trombone,
Uh,
or they said percussion, and I went, "Oh, drums." No, I said, "No, not drums. Snare drum and percussion, not drums." I was like, "Okay, well, I'm not sure about this."
yeah.
It doesn't look sexy enough to just like a snare drum, and doing cardio. So I went for the saxophone. Yeah.
Uh-huh. Uh-huh. Yeah. Well, yeah, sax was good too. But piano is always such a versatile instrument. You get so much out of the piano. And
Of course.
anyway, obviously it's stuck with you. It shows you, and it said, I'm not going, I'm staying with Franck. That's it.
But actually, a funny turn of event happened is that I didn't really take piano lessons till I was about 18 or 19.
Huh.
I learned by myself. And it was good because nobody forces you to do anything you don't feel like.
Yeah.
And, when I was 14 or 15, if I had a teacher who told me you have to play Beethoven and you have to play Bach and you have to play Rameau and Couperin, and I was like, no, I don't feel like it. This is not what I want to do. So
Yeah.
I only played, self-taught piano for many years. And then I felt the need to deepen a little bit.
Yeah.
But that was very important because nowadays I'm a big proponent of both studying legit and also to let the students what the hell they feel like doing.
Yeah.
Because a lot of time they can't relate to the legit training.
Right.
If at heart you're a jazzer, you might not relate to the legit training that much, at least as a kid, as an amateur.
Yeah. I agree.
So the reason why I play jazz piano is because nobody forced me to play Beethoven.
Yeah. And there you go. So did you get into Beethoven and at later, or no?
Yeah, but not, Beethoven and the German thing is a different. I played Chopin and Bach and maybe Debussy more than anything else.
Yeah. Do you think that the classical composers inspired your writing?
The modern one, yes.
Yeah.
I like mostly modern music. I mean, by modern, I mean not 19th century, not 18th century. I like 20th century music.
Yeah. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. I'm a big fan of the great composers of the 20th century.
Yeah. And who were some of um, your more admired jazz pianists?
Then or now?
Either one.
Hmm. Then I started listening to. Well, first of all, I listened to a lot of sax because I love the saxophone, and whomever was playing at that point, Johnny Griffin, John Coltrane, um, Cannonball, and their pianists, the pianists who were playing with them. And then when I get to play the piano more and more, I listen to at the very beginning, at the very end of the 70s, Bill Evans and Chick Corea were very, very big.
Yeah.
And so I listened to them quite a bit. And then I went to Berkeley and I discovered Keith Jarrett, for good or bad. And I really listened to him quite a bit. And then when I moved to New York, I realized that a lot of people were not great fans of, let's say, modern players who didn't really play the tradition well. So I had to check the more traditional players, not really traditional, but whatever, like Monk, like Ahmad Jamal, Hank Jones, and I think they stayed with me quite long.
Yeah, there's such a huge abundance. I mean, God, the music is so very rich, you know,
Mm-hmm.
and there's so many directions and levels and subtle differences and then there's what are you in the mood for too,
Mm-hmm.
right? Sometimes you're in the mood for rock and roll, sometimes you're in the mood for classical. So yeah, there's some. I think we were talking about Bob Moses, for instance, who's going to be on next week,
Mm-hmm.
and Bob Moses. To me, when I was at Berkeley, that was when I was at Berkeley, I discovered Weather Report and
Mm-hmm.
a whole bunch of music like that. ECM was kind of
Yeah,
in the beginning, and
right. The same
but
thing for me, by the way. When I was 19, that's there that I discovered ECM and Weather Report and the very interesting electric music of the late 70s and early 80s.
yeah, yeah, and that I mean, Bob Moses to me was he was right in there. He was like I was quite impressed, and he they that definitely formed music a music area that I was drawn to. So um, yeah, why did I bring that up? I forget. But yeah, it was just I'm but like I remember the very first group that I actually went to see from my own choice, and somehow I don't even you remember all the details, but my sister, who was 4 years older than me, took me downtown to the jazz workshop. That probably was around still when you were in Boston, right?
Mhm.
And
No, it was not.
oh, it wasn't Paul's Mall Jazz Workshop. Oh, that's a shame. Anyway, and I sat in the front row and saw the Modern Jazz Quartet, and I was blown away. You
Mm-hmm.
know,
Mm-hmm.
so yeah, I mean, I mean, beautiful music is beautiful music. The magic is the magic. Um, yeah. Do you have things that you teach your students or talk about or think about regards to creating the magic?
Well, I try to get them to really improvise, and I actually teach them both lick-based music, but really to be able to improvise, which is not playing any of those licks that I teach them. Anyway, so I
Right.
teach them both things so that, and I try to make sure that they realize that improvising is uh, it has to be done organically from the melody. I don't really like licks too much, even though people like Tommy Flanagan or Bud Powell are my favorite players. So, but students sometimes they get so much scholarly information that I try to get them to think about music a little different way than with patterns and tensions. What I would call a little bit the music school way.
Mm-hmm. Right. Yeah. Well, improvisation, I mean, that's where it's at, actually. I mean,
Because
yeah,
because when you go to music school, that's all they talk about, and it's
patterns. And,
mechanics, mechanics,
yeah,
mechanics, mechanics.
yeah, yeah,
Technology, mechanics, technology, mechanics. No, and try to think of music a different way. That's I if I'm the few gifted students that I've had who went that path, I felt like I did a good job with them, with opening them up in that direction.
yeah, yeah. And also, when you do hear great players, they have found their voice, and that's what draws you to them.
Absolutely, of course.
Um, so, could we hear another thing? Could we hear? We can either hear. We can watch or hear whatever you'd like
Mhm.
to share with us. I mean, we
You
have.
can go onto YouTube again,
Mhm.
and from the same album, you could type. Well, my name is there, and you could type from 2 to 5. Let me see. The fourth one.
Right here.
Yeah, from the album. This one, yes.
Okay. And before we do this, oh, let me just get rid of that. Before we do this, do you want to tell us about your album and the
Mhm.
players? Did you record this in France?
So this is an album. It took me a long time to get it together um, for fundings and all that stuff. But it's an album of my regular quartet. You can hear a saxophone player. He's from Cuba. His name is Irving Acau. It's very very much in demand in France. He does almost every gig.
Oh, really?
And then on bass, you have a bass player from Sweden, whose name is Victor Nyberg. Also incredibly in demand. And also the drummer, who's French, who comes from the south too. And his name is Gauthier Garrigue. So we played 2 gigs, and we agreed that there was a special chemistry going on. And this is after me recording 2 albums as a pianist singer. I didn't want to do it anymore, or I wanted to change and go back to more improvisation and hard hitting music. So that's what happened with this record.
Okay.
We recorded in Paris in 18, I believe. Yeah, 2018, I believe. Yes. Mhm.
Okay. Here we go. That's great. Which person? Now that we have the names in front of us, can you tell us the musicians one more time?
So we have Irving Akau on saxophone,
Okay, Irving. Okay,
Victor Nieberg on bass,
okay,
and Gauthier Garrigue on drums.
okay. Yeah, wonderful. It's great. I know, there are people talking on the Facebook, and it's just great to hear players you're not familiar with, and try and remember their names.
I mean, these guys are completely unknown in the States, but when everybody's working in France, these are some of the busiest players and really incredible musicians.
Yeah.
Irving is a phenomenal saxophone player. He's fully trained in Cuba.
Oh.
So he's also a very good pianist, and he's very special. His knowledge of rhythm is unique. I believe only somebody who's lived in a country like Cuba can know stuff like that.
Yeah.
And he's got a great music himself. I've tried to play in his group. It's just too complex. I can't do it. I said, look, I'm too old. I'm 20 years older than you. I can't do this. And Victor is really one of the best straight ahead players here. He comes from a bit from a Ray Brown type of school, but more modern.
Uh-huh.
And he went to North Texas for 2 semesters. Then he went back to Sweden, and he decided to go on what's called an Erasmus scholarship to study in Paris. Erasmus scholarship is a scholarship where you do a semester or a year abroad when you are an undergrad. So he landed in Paris, and he did the wisest thing. He just took his bass and he went around and did jam sessions, but he had such a good level that he got very busy right away, even though he was 21 or 22. And Gauthier has been steadily rising for the past 10 years as one of the most secure drummer here, and he can play any type of music, whether it's odd meters, straight ahead, read well, understand, all stuff.
Yeah. Well, that was just so musical. It was great song, great writing, and great playing, and just it's like, you feel secure in the people, the people who are playing know what they're doing, and they're musical and adventurous, and it's got everything.
Exactly. And when we make music together, it's a joy.
Yeah. Are there certain venues in Paris that are known for a little more modern jazz?
Well, do you call this modern or?
Yeah. I mean, it's not really,
or, yeah.
It's
This
kind
is,
of in between, right?
Yeah. In Paris, the scene is really centered on the around the Place du Châtelet, where we have basically 3 jazz clubs, four jazz clubs, and basically I always say that I don't need a car. Why? From my apartment, take the subway and I get right there, and that's I work there all the time. So. No, this is not like Los Angeles anymore, and I absolutely do not want a car. And when I don't do that, it's because I'm going to play out of town, and the train station are mostly on my subway line.
Oh, right.
And so are the airport. So,
do the venues mostly have acoustic pianos in them?
Yes, all of them have acoustic pianos. Yeah. And 2 of them have really good pianos too.
See, that's one thing. Unfortunately, over the years, LA has definitely lost their acoustic pianos in their venues. Used to be when I was coming up here, acoustic pianos were everywhere, but yeah,
Mhm.
that's really long gone. There are a few good, the ones that do exist are good, but
Mhm.
there's just not that many. Um, and hopefully after at some point, you know, the venues will be open and all that stuff will be happening again. Um,
Yeah, we are hoping that some of them don't bite the dust because it's been closed since mid-March.
yeah,
A little bit of an open during the summer, but they lost money
yeah,
operating at half capacity.
capacity.
Yeah.
Yeah, one of our biggest clubs and oldest clubs, Catalina's,
Mhm.
has been, on a GoFundMe for months. And people have been sending money. Part of the reason is because she is still supporting some of her staff, or, most of her
Right.
staff. So, which is lovely of her. I don't know that she can reach what she really wants to reach, but last time I checked, they were shooting for 150,000, and they had gotten up to close to $90,000, which is really a lot,
Mhm.
But it's one of LA's oldest jazz clubs, if not the oldest jazz club
I
here.
heard about it through the
Yeah.
years, of course.
The Blue Whale. I'm just guessing that I haven't heard anything different, but you know about the Blue Whale. So the
Only
Blue,
the name. Yeah.
yeah, the Blue Whale. It's a very special room. It's been around for 11 or 12 years. My former student actually owns it and opened it. He's Korean, and he's a singer, but not everybody knows that because he just doesn't really do that. But he decided that he wanted a place to have kind of more adventurous and modern music, and like for young people coming up and for international people. And it really made a big name for itself. And it's a great room, really cool design. It's kind of one big room, and the back part of the room is the bar, and it's kind of separate from the main listening room. And there's no real stage, it's on the floor.
Okay.
And yeah, anyway, it's very hip and very popular with jazz fans. And so I know that they haven't done any business at all since March. And Catalina told me that she doesn't have to pay rent as long as she doesn't have music. So,
Okay.
and
That,
her
that is not
building,
that is not the case in New York with Smalls, you know. So
what's happening with Smalls? Is it still there, or?
it's still there, and it's doing shows that are on the internet, and now you can fit 15 people paying $50 a piece. Um, so it's been, but he has had over 100 shows, or 120 or
Wow.
150 shows every day. There's a show, and I think sometimes there are two shows. It's not easy for him.
I haven't, I keep writing it down to go check it out. I just forget. But yeah, Smalls is pretty amazing. I mean,
Mhm.
yeah, man, it's totally amazing, really. Great place to listen to music. And yeah, well, so yeah, Catalina's now, or this has been her place for a long time, 20 years, maybe
Mhm.
less.
Oh, more than that, because I remember well, I mean, Catalina has been going on for a long time.
She's been going on for a long time, but this particular location
Okay,
is her last location, and it's actually in the bottom of a building. You know,
okay, okay.
so that's why I guess she's being allowed not to pay rent if she's not actually using it or making money.
Mhm.
So yeah, kind of crazy. What do you think What do you think the let's say the job or responsibility of the artist is right now in this time period? Any do you think we have any kind of responsibility or not?
Well, people realize that we are indispensable to their way of life.
Yes.
Whether we are comedians or serious actors or musicians, classical musicians, jazz musicians, without us, there's no music. There is no entertainment. There is no legit concert going. So I think our responsibility is just to keep going and wait and be ready when it's going to reopen. Because there is right now, Paris is a dead city without food, without restaurant, and without any kind of entertainment. Every theater is closed. Every club is closed. Every concert venue is closed. And the confinement has been done in stages, meaning that in September we all thought that we could attend big concerts at half capacity. And then we were told that half capacity would be okay, but deadline would be 9 p.m. And now it's no gathering, none. So it's pretty bad.
Well,
And our responsibility is actually to keep doing what we've been doing, because we are indispensable uh, for our society. I think so.
me too. I think so too.
Plus, we most of us are teachers, and you can't imagine having children right now, and and saying, no, okay, you don't need to do music, you don't need to do art and all that stuff. This doesn't work.
Yeah. Well, it gives us it uses our imaginations and
Mhm.
lightens us up, and I mean, if we can survive through all of this, that's what will help us survive.
Mhm.
So yeah, yeah. I was talking with my husband this morning about I forget the name. Maybe it's Zipper. There's a hall here at a music school called Colburn Music School, and it's Zipper Hall. And I think actually maybe that was his name. So there's a book called Free Play Improvisation in Life and the Arts by Stephen Nachmanovich. Are you familiar with that? It's kind of like an effortless mastery book.
Mhm.
It's a great, it's an amazing book. Stephen Nachmanovich, who's a friend of mine, he is improvisational musician, plays violin, and he wrote this book almost 30 years ago, and he recently wrote another book called The Art of Is. And Free Play is one of those books you open it up anywhere and you get inspired by the sentence you read, and talks a lot about all the crossover of improvisation into life and the arts. And so he talks about this man Zipper, and this man was, and I don't have all the information, so excuse me for anyone who's listening who knows this information, but he was a Jew who got taken away into the camps, and he was a conductor and a musician and a conductor. And what he did was he got the prisoners to take anything that they could find, like a twig, two twigs, or a piece of paper, anything. And secretly, they met and he taught them a symphony, and they played that symphony all the time with these and then he was amongst those who got rescued, and then he decided to join some armed force and go to Asia, where he got caught again and put into a Japanese camp and then got rescued. And then, you know, he continued as his career, his music career, and he made a lot of money and he was a philanthropist. And anyway, so it's just, I mean,
And his name is.
wow. I think his name was Zipper. I think that was his last name because it's Zipper Hall. I didn't remember that this morning, but I have to. I'll have to look again in the book because it mentions it in the book. So anyway, I mean that's just a one example, and we've all heard a million billion examples, and know many examples of how music is so powerful and changes us and uplifts us, and all the good stuff that you want to think about it, helping humankind.
Of course, absolutely. And it's not something that people always realize.
I agree.
And it's you got to give it to the French actually for having the system of basically a system of unemployment where in France supposedly every gig is on the books, so you have to qualify for the system, and then you can sort of have a little cushion, and you don't always have to play the terrible gigs you sometimes have to play, that I had to play sometimes in New York. It happened.
Oh yes, it always happens. If you have any kind of lengthy career, it always happens.
Exactly.
Yeah, so the French, so basically you're subsidized when you're in need.
Well, no, when you qualify.
So you have to work enough to qualify. Is that basically it?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. And you can't really go around it. You're either a teacher and you're in a different system, or you're a performer and you're in that system.
Oh.
Because that system goes also with Social Security and all that stuff. I mean, it's all bungled up.
Huh.
I make it short. It's a little.
Yeah. That's interesting. Actually, I didn't think that it would be so distinctive. You're either the teacher or you're the performer.
Yeah, basically.
Yeah. Well, that kind of reminds me of something that happened in our tax system a little while back, not that long ago. And the reason I knew about it was because my husband and I got reviewed, or what's the term,
Audited?
for tax. Sorry?
Audited?
Yes, audited.
Yeah.
Yes, we got audited, and I had written off, most everything, and especially before I met my husband, I mean, I was living kind of basically gig to mouth, and so when we were audited, they said to me, well, this is just a hobby for you. And I was like, and my tax man said, no, she's been working at this for 40 years. It's not a hobby.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, so he was, trying, the tax man was trying to make it appear that way. But during that period of time, a Superior Court judge actually ruled on a case where a woman was an artist, and she was also a teacher. And she was trying to write off her art supplies as well, and she was having the same problem. But this judge ruled that just because she was a teacher did not mean that she was not an artist too. So he ruled in her favor and changed changed the laws. So basically, we won too at that as well.
Mm-hmm.
But it sounds like your system is actually kind of more definite and more separated.
Our system is considerate. It has its flaws because it sometimes encourages people not to do too much.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
anyway, it's quite a good system because we never feel that we're going to go too low.
Well, that's
But
beautiful.
anyway, the past few years for me, I've been extremely busy. So I don't want to talk too much about it because I've been extremely busy with
Yeah.
as a musician, except till March 14th. So March 14th, when the confinement started, I had 2 gigs that were canceled. And till the last second, they were no, we're going to do it, and then on the 14th, when the president talked and he said tonight at midnight everything has to be closed, and they went okay, finished. No more fun.
Yes, I was going to go to Japan for 3 weeks in March.
Mhm.
And so and I still wasn't decided up until I think the week before. And it was mid-March that I was supposed to go. And I couldn't quite get a handle on what was going on. And finally, I was going to be in 3 cities, 3 major cities. And my friend in Tokyo said, do not come. And she's a doctor. And I was like, yeah. And my other friends are, kind of more hopeful and, lovey-dovey. And they were going, come on, it's fine, And then finally I just thought, there's too many variables. I just have
You
to
don't want to be
cancel.
in a foreign country and something like that happens,
Yeah.
and
I
you
mean,
can't even go back, and you don't know what to do. You can't even go out. You did Forget it.
yeah.
It's not the
If
right
I was
time.
going to be in any foreign country, it would be Japan because I have a lot of friends there. I've been going there for years, and it's
Mhm.
easy. It's easy living. But yeah, I mean, there was the possibility of me being, if I went, I might have had to be in quarantine for 2 weeks, and then what? Who pays for that? You know, I probably pay for it, right? To be
Mhm.
quarantined in a hotel. So, yeah, interesting. Um, So let's see. So, have you been a teacher in a school or more have you been a private teacher?
Well, my whole life I've been a bit of a freelancer.
Yeah,
So I freelance here and there, and I'm mostly a private teacher.
I see.
Also because, you know, the French, God bless them, but they have curses for everything. And
Curses?
you know, course of studies,
Oh, courses. Okay. I thought you said curse, like
No,
CURSE.
cursus, 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 course of studies.
Okay.
But I highly disagree with what they teach. So
Okay.
so I didn't want to be part of it.
Yes.
And plus, you need to have the diplomas, which I do have, but they're American,
Oh.
so they don't count.
Oh.
So you have to like sort of get an equivalency that
Oh.
takes you a year.
Yeah.
I'm a performer. That's how I make a living.
Yes. Right.
And so when I was in New York, going back to New York when I moved there was 1985, end
Oh.
of '85.
Yeah.
And, I don't know if you were in New York at that point, or if you
I
at
had
all
just I was
spent
just
time in New York at that
visiting.
point.
I never actually did spend a long time in New York. So, but I had been there at that time a little bit.
Anyway, it was a very different city then, and a very different scene. And I actually loved it. I thought that the musicians they were a dream come true to play with. So I didn't want to return to France, and I met a lot of people, a lot of them that you have on your shows,
Yeah.
and finally I recorded my first records, which was with Gerry Peacock on bass, and
We have to listen to a little of that. So
and
beautiful.
and Bill Stewart, the
Yeah.
very young Bill Stewart,
Yeah.
23, all of 23 of age then.
Oh wow.
So and I had an incredible bad luck with this record in a certain way, because I think it's a record that's a bit famous now, but I happened to record it literally a day or two before the invasion of Kuwait by Iraq.
Oh.
And immediately everything froze in New York.
Oh.
Till the Gulf War was over, and there was a depression, the Bush years, there was a depression and the Gulf War. And it was a year or two where we just waited. Is the work going to come back? And what's going to happen to us? So it was very difficult to release that record in the United States. So finally, a French company did it, did release it. And eventually I was able to license it to Japan and to re-release it. But it was a very successful record. I unfortunately was not able to keep that trio together and working. Bill was incredibly in demand, and Gerry was a lot older than me. It was not easy for me to approach him.
Yeah. Can we hear some of that?
Sure. Why don't you play How Deep is the Ocean from that record?
Okay. Let's see.
So if you type, you keep my name and you. So that's the second one, yeah.
Right here.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry. Nice cover, by the way.
I recently met the artist who did this.
Oh, really?
Yes, he's a beautiful artist. This is a brownstone in Brooklyn. It makes you feel like playing music again.
I always say that's the best. That's when I really know somebody's really good, when I actually feel like singing. you know.
Right.
that
That's right.
was really beautiful. Oh my
Oh, thank
God.
you. It was
Um,
30 years ago now. Hard to believe. 30 years went by kind of quickly.
that's incredible. Yeah. Yeah, I know. Time is very strange. It's really strange. Just like that, it was yesterday, I mean, and it really was too. It's like the timeline it's not straight.
Yeah. And I,
um,
and I remember I did another record the same week at the same place. This was recorded at the Clinton Recording Studios, which was one of the best studios, one of the most expensive and best studios we had in New York. And I remember uh, as I came out, uh, I looked at the sax player, and I was 28 and he was 30. And I looked at him and I said, we're not 20 anymore.
oh yeah, those were the days.
Yeah.
that
So,
was so gorgeous. I, you know, I mean, I almost have to say there's nothing that I like better than that kind of playing. I mean, I love great playing. I love a lot of things. And I can be really turned on by loud music. I mean, I can be turned on by a lot of music, but that kind of music is the same kind of thing when I saw the Modern Jazz Quartet when I was however old I was. There's this beautiful kind of holy balance, and um, it's each person is stating in the best way that they are able who they are, and you're all joining in the same universe, with agreement that you're each going to do that, and you move, not exactly forward, but you move. and
yeah.
and and um and it's just there's so many different things that I like about that music, that all those little qualities are. It's
Mhm.
just, it's quite beautiful. I mean, and I kept thinking, my mind, as I was listening, I kept thinking, I kept thinking that each person was responsible for the other sounding good,
They
and
are.
in
They are.
fact, everybody is, right? I
No,
mean,
of course.
the things that Gerry played it made it happen, but then you would play something and then Bill would play something.
Exactly. But then it was. I mean, I was very fortunate to be able to play with those guys in this studio. And I brought, this is one of the only standard on that date, so it was actually a difficult date even for these guys. And some of the tunes we had to do 6 and 7 times. But this one, we did only 2 takes, and actually the first one was maybe even good enough. But I felt like, okay, let's do one more, just in case, and it's, the funny thing about music is that I think that 30 years later I play much better, but maybe not.
That's true.
Because I've played that song so many hundreds of times since. And okay, granted, it's not with Gerry and not with Bill, but still with very good musicians. And still, I feel like this particular performance, everything is good.
I know
It's very
that
rare.
feeling.
As a performer, you never like to listen to yourself. I mean,
Yeah.
I never like to listen to myself, but I have to say that this was,
Okay.
it was okay.
I know what you mean, because I've been recording since the 80s. So, and the first few records, there were some things that were so good and they're timeless. Like what this one arranger and pianist, I've gotten reacquainted again, and his arrangements and playing were timeless. They were
Who is
beautiful. His
that?
name is Rick Helzer, Helzer. I've invited him to be on in December, and wow, he's such a forward thinker of music, and form and improvisation, and just wonderful. I mean, he's still doing incredible things. But the thing is, you're right. The it's kind of in the moment. That's really what it is. And I had actually a similar experience. Gosh, I don't even know what year it was. I don't even know what year it was, but I recorded this album, Song of the Heart. It was a Chick Corea studio. So the studio was great. Piano was divine. We used Bernie Kirsch, the Chick's engineer. So all of that was. And then my partner, my musical partner, was this pianist who lives in Japan now. He's really good. You probably love his playing. His name is Philip Strange. And so, and we had Peter Erskine and Mark Johnson. And Phil wrote beautiful arrangements, and the playing was divine. And I remember actually I had a funny experience after that because I wasn't really used to singing with Peter and Mark. I mean, they were levels above me, and even though I was a good singer, I still, I was nowhere near their experience level and everything. So after that record happened, I immediately got depressed. And finally, about a year later, I realized that I was just depressed because I wasn't continuing what had happened. And once I realized that, I was fine. Then I got back on the ball again. But yeah, it was an interesting experience actually for me. And but I have to say, I've played with just gorgeous, more gorgeous players since, and had some really beautiful moments. And it's always about the present moment, isn't it?
Exactly. It cannot be done the same way twice.
Right.
And once you let go of that, you're a happier person. Maybe,
Yes.
probably.
See, we were talking about letting go before the show started. That's my point. Jay Clayton is here. Do you know Jay? I forget if she said she knew you.
Oh, you know, well, she may not remember me, but she was a teacher at Banff in '84. And I loved her singing. It was such a great experience. 84, 85. And I remember concerts she did with Dave Holland and Marvin Smith and Don Thompson on piano.
Oh,
And it was really beautiful.
she probably remembers. I think because she and I are friends, and I think we spoke of you when I told her you were coming on. She said, yeah, she said, hope to cross musical paths one day after all of this is over. Wonderful to hear you and see you.
Thank you, Jay.
Yeah. So, yeah, actually, Jay, for me, is a friend and a mentor because I revere her. I think what she does is high up there.
Indeed. And it was, I remember in those 2 years I was there, one day she did this song called Goodbye, the Gordon Jenkins.
Uh-huh.
And Don Thompson was playing the piano, and Don is quite a good player.
Yes.
And I always remember, I didn't know that song, and they played it in A flat minor, which is and it was some of the most beautiful things I had ever heard. And I would not let go. I said, "Don't. You have to put down those chords." And he put down all the chords, every substitution. And then he said, "But come on, Frank, this is a Benny Goodman theme song." And I'm like,
Well, God, I remember when I heard Betty Carter do this song. It's called This Time. And she did it really slow, very painfully Betty Carter slow bossa nova. This time, do do. It hasn't got right, that kind of tempo. And then I found this song. It was written by Julie Stein, who wrote like Just in Time and everything.
yeah.
And it was just the simplest little song.
Okay.
And she took it and she Betty Cartered it, and it was gorgeous.
Mm-hmm.
I think that was on her last record, actually, where she's on the cover. There's a white background. She's in like pants and stuff, and I'm pretty sure Benny Green is on it.
Oh, that's not the last record.
No,
Benny was there in the early '80s, unless it did some more later that I'm not aware of.
Oh yeah, let me. I wonder if I can find that because I'm curious. But yeah, in January, there's in New York, there's like the jazz conference that happens, and
I was there in '06 and '07 just for that jazz conference, and then it folded. The whole thing self-destroyed at some point.
But then it got back on the horse.
That's right. Yeah.
Because I went the last 2 years, which was really fantastic. Mm-hmm. And let's see, 1996, maybe that was it. I'm Yours, You're Mine. Yeah, I think that was the record. And well, let's see, personnel on this was Xavier Davis.
Yeah, Xavier Davis.
Yeah,
97. So that's probably her last record, and Xavier Davis was already playing with her. That's right.
Yeah, and as a matter of fact, here's the track listing. This time is on there. Yeah, Curtis Lundy and the drums, Gregory Hutchison. Yeah, it was a wonderful record, really, and just the Betty Carter thing, But the reason why I brought up the jazz conference was, I think it was the last year, which was this year actually. Talk about how strange time feels. But they had a seminar, or whatever you call it, a seminar of Betty Carter alumni.
Right.
It was great. And you can actually see this stuff online. And that was just, yeah. And it was great to hear about her. And she was kind of tough love, and, but they loved her. And, there's one really interesting little story that I remembered, which was she asked the bass player and the drummer on this one gig, if they had like taken a nap that day or something. And they said, yeah, as a matter of fact, we did, both of them. And she said, don't do it again.
I remember her on sound checks. She did a concert at the Brooklyn Prospect Park Band Shell in '87. I was there. I remember the sound check. She was
hardcore.
The poor pianist, Is that all you have to give to me?
Whoa. Well, there was Carmen when I saw her when I was about 21, and she kicked the piano player off the bench. And
she was a good pianist too.
She was great, but how humiliating,
Oh yeah.
Terrible. Yeah. Actually, one time I saw her here in LA. It was a long time ago. And Benny actually was with her. And she she was a half a tone flat the whole entire time, and I couldn't understand if it was on purpose or what it was, you know. And in those days, I was so picky about that. I couldn't listen to Carmen McRae for the longest time because I felt like she was flat. But in years that, you know, like the later years that I started listening to her, I grew to absolutely adore her. You know, think of her as the queen of phrasing. You
I
know,
mean, she was. She
yeah.
really was.
um, I have a chronic cough. I'm not sick or anything. I just have a chronic cough that I've dealt with
Can't
for
catch it from here. It's okay.
um, so um, was before COVID, did you work a lot every week, or well, how are the gigs?
Quite a bit. Quite a bit. Maybe a couple, 2 to 3 gigs a week,
Yeah,
basically.
yeah.
I have the chance to be one of the house pianists at the main jazz club here.
Oh, very nice.
So I often do the after hours, but they also call me to play with various soloists. You know, for example, I did right before he passed. I played with Kevin Mahogany,
Oh,
and
really nice.
there's still a tape line somewhere about this.
Mm.
It's, and and I take care of the after hours sometimes, and I can hire whomever is in the area, soloist or rhythm section. And I do gigs outside of Paris, of course, and outside of France. Although there are less and less of those outside of France because nobody has the money for, till COVID came. Nobody. It came to the point where nobody had the money to pay for any travel. I've seen this going down the past 20 years, and it's going to be interesting to see if things are going to change when all of this is over. Um, and then there are a couple of other smaller gigs in Paris that I sometimes do because I like to play, and the bass player too, and he's fantastic, and so we can play bass and piano often. And it's basically it, and teach, and sometimes write music. Yes, also I write music for my own enjoyment and for people who want me to, write for big band or strings or whatever.
Have you been writing the last few months, or do you find that you have other interests going on?
I have other interests. For a while I was singing a lot,
Oh, really?
doing piano and singing,
Oh,
and then and then what started to bother me is that when you sing, I mean, at least at my level, I'm a better pianist than a singer. But what it means also is that the music was more straight ahead when I sung,
yeah.
and I'm known for stretching out and playing all kind of music, and it kind of bothered me because people started really thinking that I was an old fart. I was like, no, come on, I'm not that old. I can up tempo, yeah, no problem. I can still, but so finally I went more towards past 4 or 5 years. I went more towards playing.
Yeah, that's interesting. You know, I'm the opposite. I'm a good singer, and my piano playing is so. So when I play and sing, you know, I kind of don't sound that good because I'm not being supported by somebody really great. I always tell my students, now when you get with a real piano player, you're going to sing differently.
My daughter always go, when my piano teacher, my voice teacher, she goes, she does not play the piano like you. I said, yeah, I know that.
Yeah. Oh well, we do what we can. I keep threatening myself to like, actually because I'm the kind of piano player who has to read, you know. I don't remember songs because I haven't worked on it. But I keep saying, "Come on, Kathy, you can take one song and just come on, you can do it. Come on." But as we were saying, my interests are. I try to be nice to myself these days. If I don't feel like practicing, I'm not going to practice. I'm just if I feel like downloading all my CDs to an external hard drive, and that's what I'm in the midst of doing now. I, that's what I'm going to do. I'm just going to relax, and it's kind of hard to think about getting out there and working. Like I find when I do go out there in the world, I'm if if I go back to kind of how I was before, which was sometimes really busy, like you're out there all day long, then I'm not that happy when I come back. I would rather, I'm kind of comfortable now. My gig though that I've been playing, which is a jam session actually, I'm actually bringing my PA too. So yeah, I mean it's not a big huge PA, but still, it's like, oh yeah, I remember this.
The joy of being a freelancer.
Yeah, yeah. But I have this gig now that's very nice. It's a few Sundays a month. It's a jam session, and it's in a really nice outdoor patio of a restaurant, and people are just so chill. They're so happy to be there and amongst other people and in the air, and not worried about lots of close contact. And I have the singers bring their own mic, and actually so far we haven't had piano, bass, and drums sit in yet, but I'm sure there'll come a time when that happens, but yeah, it's very nice. So it's interesting. I mean, as soon as you either get up from your table or get off the stage, you're supposed to wear your mask, and that's not so terrible. It's
same thing in Paris.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Did Paris is the reason why it's locked down again? Did the numbers go drastically up again?
Drastically, as in like yesterday, there were 425 dead in France.
From when?
Let's say about a month ago, there were about 30.
Okay, so this is the total number of all dead
in France.
Yeah.
Not Paris.
Yeah.
But then it's gone drastically up, and the number of infected people number of cases are above 50,000 a day.
Wow.
Which is also quite a bit, like 5 times or even more what the number were a few weeks ago.
Yeah.
So they did simulation, and they showed this is what happens if right now we would not confine. It would be like 1 month from now, it would be through the roof.
Yeah.
So I have all my family, they're all doctors, and they don't know anything. All they say to me is like, don't get close to anyone, wear a mask,
Yeah. Yeah. Wow. Yep. Shall we hear another song?
Sure.
Let's see. Tell me, is there something a little different?
Yeah, you can from my album Summertimes.
Oh,
let me see if we put down the song called Lila. So if you would, yeah, exactly.
Lila.
LAI. Yeah, that's right.
Right here. Is this you? No.
That's me with Lila, actually.
Oh, really? Is that your daughter, or who is that?
That's right. That's my daughter.
Wow. Are you playing? Are you guys playing?
We're playing actually. I was making her work on Twisted, I think. Yeah, right, Twisted.
Is she a good singer?
She is actually. She's 18 on this, so you can put it also. Yeah.
Okay.
Hello. Bonjour. Franck Amsallem, Laila Amsallem. Nous sommes confinés à Arcueil. On est le lundi 27 avril. Et on a préparé une petite chanson pour vous. Cela s'appelle Twisted de Wardle Gray. Paroles de Annie Ross. Alice told me that I was right out of my head the way you described it. He said I'd be better dead. But I didn't listen to his jive. I knew all along he was all wrong, and I knew that he thought I was crazy, but I'm not. Oh no. Oh no. Alice told me that I was right out of my head. He said any treatment, not that easily led. He said I was the type that was most of the time went out of his sight to be out of my mind. And he thought I was nuts. Some way, some answer, but some no. They say as a child I appeared a little bit wild with all my crazy ideas, but I knew what was happening. I knew I was a genius. What's so strange when you know that you're a wizard and free? I knew that this was meant for me. I heard little children were supposed to sleep tight, and that's why I drank a fifth of vodka one night. My parents got friends and didn't know what to do, but I saw some crazy scenes before I came to. Now you think I was crazy. I knew a bit only me, but I was swinging. They left an aquarium down. They left an acid and all said I so why should I feel sorry if they just couldn't understand the reason
All right.
the logic that went on in my head? I had been just let them laugh at me when I refused to ride on all those double-decker buses, all because there was no driver on the top.
Woo!
Told me that I was right out of my head the way you described it. He said I'd be better dead than alive. I didn't listen to his jive. I knew all along he was all wrong, and I knew that he thought I was crazy, but I'm not. Alice told me that I was right out of my head, but I said, dear doctor, I think that it's you instead, 'cause I've got a thing that's unique and new. If you don't have the last laugh on you, 'cause instead of one head, I got two. And you know, two heads are better than one.
Yay! Yeah. That was really good.
That's you know the city where I live.
Yeah.
They call me up and they said, you know, that we have several artists in our city. We want to know how you spend your time confined. And Lila was near me, and I said, okay, so we'll put it up on our city hall blog, whatever. So Lila was right nearby. I said, okay, well, I'll send you a video in 5 minutes, and we went and we did this.
That's really good. Yeah, she's good, man. She has everything happening. Her timing, her notes, and her phrasing, and
Oh,
yeah, the
she'd
sound.
be glad to hear this.
Yeah, she sounds really good.
You know, she's 18. It's her first year after high school, and she went, oh, I don't want to go to university. I don't want to go to. I just want to do my own thing. You know, she's into electro, whatever. But
Yeah,
she played drums for many years,
yeah.
and for so many years she never wanted to practice, and I used to threaten her. I won't feed you till you practice. I want to hear the drum. And so she's got the feel and all that stuff. She
She
was
definitely feel.
literally raised in jazz clubs.
Yeah.
Everyone in Paris knows Lila even more than me. I was like, oh yeah, So anyway, and the song I wanted to play is the song I wrote when she was born,
Cool.
and I was on babysitting duty. So she, of course, she wanted to be held. So I was holding her with my left arm, and I wrote the song with my right arm.
Oh,
That's
really?
the song. Yeah, yes.
Oh,
And
really?
that's with the famous Joe Chambers on drums.
The famous, I'm sorry, the famous what?
Joe Chambers, the great drummer.
Oh, okay. This, oh, I see. Okay, cool. Another one of those great bass players.
Yes,
And the picture, this picture is really beautiful. It goes along with the music so beautifully.
that's Chris Drucker. Drucker, the artist who does all the Sunnyside
Oh,
record covers.
very, very beautiful. Yeah. That's a beautiful song. It's got this kind of a mix of major and minor or
That's
something.
right. Yes, exactly. I
Quite
can't hide anything from you.
yeah, that was very, very pretty. Yeah, beautiful. Well, you tell your
As
daughter.
a matter of fact, it starts on a D-7,
Yeah.
D-7 for two chords, and then goes to E-7 for two chords. And sometimes the saxophone player goes, "Is that C over E or is that E minor Dorian?" I said, "I don't know. Whatever you do, whatever you do, I'll follow." So sometimes I never know.
I always like to hear piano players say that because you know there's some there's some piano players who kind of don't allow you as a singer to do what you want to do. That like that tension note is wrong. Then there's other piano players who it is what it is. It's a tension note. That's what it is. It's fine. It's within that. I Benny Maupin lives here, and so when I go to hear Benny Maupin, I'm weighted with bated breath, to hear him play the tension notes.
Yeah, he's great.
Yeah, and the way he hears, and my singing teacher always tells me this one thing, and I I haven't exactly qualified what he means because I don't want to know. I want to think what I want to think. But he always says, "Don't sing the melody, sing harmony." And I mean, he's talking about me singing the melody note, but he's not. But he says sing harmony, and so my interpretation of that is to take into consideration the sound of what's around me,
Yes, yes.
and that's what Benny Maupin does when he
Mhm.
and when he plays those tension notes. They're perfect. They're perfect, because they're in the space, right in their area. It's quite beautiful.
Great musician.
Yeah.
I remember we shared a stage and we went, okay, we got to play together, but we never could balance it. I guess he came to Paris at some point, but I was still in New York.
Yeah. I'm going to send you a cut on one of my later records. Um, it was with a small chamber orchestra, but there was a song that's one of his songs that he plays. I mean, I've heard it on so many records of his live, especially live. It's called "Message to Prez," and I have a 7-piece a cappella improv vocal group, and so we on that song on my record we took "Message to Prez" and then we did this. Our group is called Fish to Birds, so we did the Fish to Birds thing with it, which is basically improv, but structure, but improv.
Mhm.
And then the brilliant arranger arranged it kind of in 3 movements, and then we put Benny playing all through it, and it's really beautiful. I'm going to send that to you because it's
Please, please.
it's one of my favorites. It's actually of course, the longest song on the record, but it's so cool. I mean, Benny is just like, God, so good. That was the one thing. So it's actually been about 2 hours.
Oh yeah, that's right.
Yeah. And I'm so glad to meet you. So glad to talk to
Likewise,
you.
likewise, and I'll make sure if I ever make it back to the West Coast, which should happen if I'm still alive, we're still alive. I'll make a point of letting you know
Yes, let me know ahead of time.
ahead of time. Yes,
Yeah.
my wife is from the Seattle area,
Okay.
so I go there every so often, and then go back to down to San Francisco. I haven't been to Los Angeles. Last time I was there was '99, I think. Yeah, '99.
It's a long time ago. Well, you're welcome to stay in my home, you and your wife. And
Thank you.
so remember that. And it would be really fun to have you here and to have a party. My parties are pretty famous. I mean, if I ever have a party again, we're just redoing our
That's right.
kitchen, so
Yes,
it's
yes.
we're waiting for a party time. And but in the meantime, we're gonna everybody who's listening, I'm sure is going to seek you out more and hear what you're doing and hear what you've done. And so, thank you so very much for doing this and spending 2 hours.
Thank you for inviting me. Of course, pleasure.
And ladies and gentlemen, tomorrow we're going to have a mutual friend of ours, Bill Mays, who's an
Please say hi.
exquisite piano
I haven't
player.
seen them for so long.
Okay.
Yes.
And just so you know, next week we're having one of my heroes, Bob Moses, and David Bassie, who's a singer and a disc jockey, a jazz disc jockey from Kansas City. And then on the 11th, we're having a man named Larry Livingston, who's a very well-respected conductor and composer, and also he was at UCLA in some high teaching position. He might have been the dean actually for a while. And anyway, so I'm looking forward to that too. So everybody have a really safe, good time. If you're in LA, come out to the jam session. We're doing it the last 2 Tuesdays of this month, and you can find the information on my site. Thank you, Franck.
Thank you. Be well.
Okay, au revoir.
À bientôt.